Beneath the restless waves, far below the sunlit surface, lies a world untouched by light. A kingdom of shadows where pressure crushes steel, yet life endures. Down there, silence isn't empty. It breathes, it pulses, it whispers of creatures shaped by darkness and time. What thrives in this abyss is not alien, though it feels like another planet. It is Earth's final frontier, a hidden empire of fragile giants, bioluminescent ghosts, and predators sculpted by 1,000 crushing atmospheres. To journey here is to step into the unknown and discover life's ultimate resilience. Before we dive into the blackest waters, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, so together we can uncover the secrets that the ocean still hides. The ocean has always been a mirror of human wonder, a surface of glittering waves that hides more than it reveals. For centuries, sailors looked across the horizon and thought of distance, but few dared to imagine what lay beneath. Because beneath, there is no horizon, only depth. A descent into silence, into pressure, into a darkness so complete it feels infinite. At first, the journey seems harmless. The surface light dances like liquid glass, casting silver patterns across your eyes. Schools of fish scatter like living sparks, reflecting the warmth of the sun. Here, the ocean is familiar, almost comforting, a world tethered to ours. But the deeper you go, the faster the familiar begins to dissolve. The light dims to a muted blue, soft and fading. At 30 meters, the red hues vanish first, the color of blood, of fire, of warmth, gone as though it never existed. At 60 meters, orange slips away. At 100, yellow fades into memory. The deeper you descend, the more the spectrum collapses until only cold blues and shadows remain. You are leaving the world of color behind. The silence begins to thicken. Sound behaves differently underwater. It bends, stretches, lingers longer than it should. A whale's call can echo for miles, resonating through the blackness like a ghostly bell. Yet as you sink lower, even these echoes become scarce. The world grows quieter, as though the ocean itself is drawing in a breath, waiting. You enter the twilight zone, the mesopelagic, a place between light and darkness, between life and extinction. Here, creatures drift in slow motion, translucent bodies designed to disappear. Lanternfish flash with pulses of light, signaling to one another in a language we barely understand. Small squids shimmer, their bodies turning into brief streaks of fire before vanishing into the dark. Everything here is an illusion. Appear, disappear, survive. And with every meter downward, the weight of the ocean begins to press. At 200 meters, the pressure doubles what it is at the surface. At 500, it becomes unbearable for human lungs. By 1,000, it would crush us flat. Yet here, strange life persists, fragile-looking, yet stronger than steel. Creatures whose bones are almost non-existent, whose bodies are more jelly than flesh, withstand forces that no human vessel can without armor. It is here that the descent begins to change us. The mind feels smaller, more fragile, as if shrinking with the narrowing band of light. The body may be protected in a vessel, but the spirit feels naked in this abyss. Every flicker of light in the dark becomes a mystery, every shadow a question. Are we intruders here? Or explorers? Perhaps both. For millions of years, this twilight has been untouched, its creatures unbothered by human hands. They have never seen the glow of our machines, never felt the hum of our engines. We arrive here like strangers stumbling into a cathedral, not realizing we are standing on sacred ground. And as you drift deeper, the last threads of daylight vanish. You are now leaving the world you know behind, entering a place where the laws of survival are rewritten, where light is born not from the sun, but from the creatures themselves. The abyss is opening its gates, and the question lingers in your mind, heavy as the pressure outside. If life can thrive here, in silence, in darkness, under crushing weight. Then what else might the universe be hiding in its unseen depths? The vessel drifts downward, past the threshold where sunlight can no longer follow. This is the boundary line, the point at which Earth becomes another planet. The blackness is not empty. It is full, thick, almost alive. Darkness here is not the absence of light, but its own kind of presence, stretching endlessly in every direction. The first instinct is fear. Not the fear of predators or storms, but of scale, of realizing how small we are against this cathedral of pressure and shadow. Above, the sky is vast. Yes, but it feels reachable. Down here, there is no horizon, no end. Only depth. Your instruments flicker in the gloom, beams of artificial light slicing across the void. And then, life answers. Tiny sparks, scattered like stars, drift across the current. Bioluminescence. Creatures glowing with their own chemical fire, carrying lanterns born inside their flesh. For them, light is language. Some pulse in quick bursts, a signal of warning. Others glow in slow waves, a lure for prey. Some scatter blue light like sparks from a dying fire. This is their universe, an endless midnight sky, but beneath the sea. A curtain of jellyfish passes, their bodies delicate as glass, yet glowing like orbs of molten crystal. Each pulse of their bells is silent, yet rhythmic, like the beating of an ancient drum. Beyond them, schools of lanternfish shimmer, rising from deeper trenches at night to feed near the surface, then sinking back into darkness with the dawn. Billions of them, moving as a single body, a migration older than humanity itself. And here, drifting among them, are hunters. Creatures designed by necessity, sculpted by darkness. The hatchetfish, its body sharp and metallic, mirrors the faint light from above so perfectly it vanishes when seen from below. The viperfish, with jaws for its skull, dangles a glowing lure in front of needle teeth, waiting for a reckless wanderer to swim too close. Each one, no matter how grotesque, is beautiful, because each is proof that life can shape itself to fit the unimaginable. But the deeper you go, the stranger survival becomes. At 600 meters, oxygen dwindles. Here, most fish rise and fall in great vertical journeys, timing their movements with the turning of the day. To us, this seems impossible, swimming up and down hundreds of meters in darkness, across crushing pressure. To them, it is rhythm. The ocean breathes through their migration. Even the water itself feels heavier here, dense and cold, a body of liquid that moves with impossible slowness. Your vessel groans against the squeeze, the steel trembling with the reminder that down here, survival is borrowed. One crack, one failure, and the weight of the ocean would flatten everything inside. Yet outside, fragile creatures move as though pressure doesn't exist at all. Occasionally, a shadow slips past, too large, too fast, gone before recognition. Was it a squid, stretching its limbs across the beam of light like ropes of darkness? Was it something larger, something unseen? The ocean keeps its secrets close. What we glimpse is only an echo of what remains hidden. And then, as if to remind you that life here is not fragile but fierce, a glow erupts in the dark. A siphonophore, a colony creature longer than a blue whale, drifts like a living galaxy, its tendrils sparking with thousands of lights. It is not one creature, but many, bound together in a single body, feeding, glowing, drifting. To behold it is to feel as though you are floating among stars, but stars that move, that hunt, that live. This is the paradox of the abyss. It is both graveyard and nursery, silence and symphony, terror and wonder. Every descent brings us closer to the trench floor, but also farther from the world we know. And with every passing meter, one thought repeats like a drumbeat in the back of the mind. If this is only the beginning, the twilight, the threshold, Then what unfathomable shapes and secrets wait in the deeper black? The descent continues, and with it, the transformation of the world outside your window. The last remnants of blue fade away, swallowed by blackness so complete it feels like velvet pressed against glass. There is no sense of up or down now, no direction but the pull of gravity dragging you deeper. At 1,000 meters, you have entered the midnight zone. Sunlight can never touch this place. It is eternal night, eternal silence, eternal pressure. The weight of the ocean above is equal to the weight of 50 jumbo jets pressing against every square inch. For us, impossible. For the creatures here, simply home. The spotlight from your vessel cuts through the water, illuminating shapes that seem too strange to belong to Earth. A deep-sea dragonfish glides into view, its jaw unhinged, teeth like shards of glass, body draped in ribbons of bioluminescent dots. It does not flee. Instead, it hovers, unbothered by the intrusion, its eyes adapted to the faintest glimmer, its body a weapon of patience. Nearby, another ghostly form materializes, a gulper eel, its mouth grotesquely oversized, capable of swallowing prey almost half its size. Its body coils and uncoils with the elegance of a ribbon in water, disappearing into shadow before your lights can follow. Here, survival is less about speed and more about strategy. Energy is scarce. Every meal could be the last for days, weeks, even months. Creatures have grown patient, ambush hunters waiting in silence, conserving every flicker of energy. Hunger rules this kingdom. Yet hunger has also sculpted creativity. Lures, lights, transparent flesh, mirrored scales. Each adaptation is a solution to the riddle of survival in darkness. The deeper you sink, the colder the water becomes. Near freezing, though it never ices. Currents slip silently around the vessel, carrying nutrients from distant places. Sometimes, the remains of surface life, tiny snow-like flakes of organic matter, drift down in endless fall. Scientists call it marine snow. To the creatures here, it is lifeblood, a slow, constant rain of decay, falling from the world above, feeding the darkness below. Every flake tells a story, a fragment of plankton, a shred of algae, a grain of bone dust. Death above sustains life below. And yet, it is not enough. Competition is fierce. The weak vanish quickly, absorbed into the chain of hunger. But the strong, or the clever, endure. Imagine living your whole life in this black cathedral, never knowing warmth, never knowing light, surviving on scraps and whispers of the world above. For us, it is unthinkable. For them, it is ordinary. Then something stirs in the dark, a movement, vast and slow. Out of the void glides a giant squid. Arms stretching like endless ropes, body glowing faintly with internal sparks. It is a myth come alive. For centuries, sailors told stories of krakens rising from the deep to drag ships into the sea. Here, you realize those stories were born from truth. These titans exist, not as monsters, but as survivors, apex hunters adapted to an alien world. Their eyes are the largest in the animal kingdom, wide enough to capture the faintest flicker of light in this abyss. And as it passes, silently, gracefully, it is gone again, swallowed by the dark that made it. Inside the vessel, the silence is oppressive. You realize the fragility of the line that separates you from this world. A thin hull of steel, a handful of instruments, a bubble of air, and beyond that, a weight that would crush a human body into nothingness. And yet, despite the fear, there is awe. To be here is to witness resilience beyond imagination. Life not just surviving, but thriving in a place that should not allow it. The abyss is no longer just a depth. It is a revelation. A mirror held up to the universe, whispering a question we cannot ignore. If life can endure here, in blackness and silence, Could it not also exist in the hidden oceans of distant moons? The journey is not yet over. You are still falling. And deeper still lies the trench, where pressure becomes unthinkable, and life bends into shapes that defy reason. The descent feels endless. Hours pass, yet the sensation of sinking only deepens. You are no longer simply an observer of the ocean. You are inside its body, moving through layers that few have ever seen. The thought clings to you. With every meter downward, you step further away from the world of air, of light, of certainty. At 2,000 meters, the vessel creaks like an old ship in a storm. Steel bends, groans, but holds. Beyond the glass, there is no movement, no life visible in the narrow beam of light. And yet, you know it is there. The abyss is patient. It does not always reveal its inhabitants at once. Sometimes it prefers silence. The silence is deceptive, because even here, the ocean is alive. Slowly, your eyes adjust to subtle flickers beyond the spotlight. A faint pulse of blue, a drifting, glowing spiral, a scatter of sparks like embers caught in an unseen current. Creatures remain hidden until they wish to be known. Bioluminescence is their camouflage, their language, their survival. Some use it to dazzle predators, exploding into light before vanishing into shadow. Others use it as a lure, tricking prey into approaching what seems like a beacon, but is really the mouth of death. The water is denser now, heavier, pressing on every surface of the vessel. It moves slowly, almost sluggishly, carrying with it the faint echoes of the world above. Microscopic plankton drift like dust motes, fragments of the endless rain of marine snow. Skeletons of the smallest creatures form the foundation of survival here. A reminder, in the ocean, nothing is wasted. At 3,000 meters, the light of your vessel touches the impossible. A glass sponge garden rises from the seafloor like an alien forest. Fragile lattice of silica, shaped into structures more delicate than crystal, stand rooted in the sediment. They glow faintly under the spotlight, shimmering with a beauty that defies their harsh environment. Within their hollow frames, shrimp are trapped, having wandered in long ago, living their entire lives within the cage of glass. This is not cruelty, but balance. The sponge survives, the shrimp endures, and together they write a story of coexistence at the edge of life. Farther along, the seafloor cracks open, and you witness another miracle. Hydrothermal vents. Black chimneys spewing mineral-rich water into the abyss. A storm of chemicals rising in plumes. The water here is toxic, boiling hot, and yet around the vents, life flourishes. Giant tube worms, red plumes swaying like banners, thrive in the poisonous flow. Bacteria swarm, feeding on the chemicals. Blind crabs crawl across the rocks, sustained by a food chain with no sunlight at all. This is an ecosystem born not of the sun, but of the earth itself. A reminder that life does not need the stars to begin. It only needs energy in any form. The discovery reshapes your mind. If life can emerge here, in boiling poison beneath crushing pressure, what does that say about the possibilities elsewhere? Could hidden oceans on moons like Europa or Enceladus also cradle such alien, resilient beings? Could vents like these, unseen beneath ice, be the wombs of life beyond Earth? As the vessel drifts past the vent fields, the light dims once more, returning to black. The journey has reached the final stretch of this descent, the edge of the trench. Before you lies a vast emptiness, a chasm in the seafloor plunging deeper still. The Mariana Trench, Challenger Deep, Tonga Trench, names given to scars in the Earth's skin, places so deep they could swallow Mount Everest whole. You hover above this precipice, staring down into a darkness that has no bottom. The pressure here is beyond comprehension. At nearly 11 kilometers down, every square inch carries the weight of a mountain. And yet, life waits even here, in ways you cannot yet imagine. The abyss whispers, though you cannot hear it. It calls you onward. The chapter closes not with answers, but with the widening of mystery. You realize what you've seen so far has only been the threshold. The true secrets of the trenches still lie below, hidden in shadows where even light refuses to follow. And as the vessel begins its descent into this final blackness, the question returns, heavier now, insistent. If the ocean can keep secrets for millions of years, what will it show us, and what will it choose to hide? You have left behind the faint traces of twilight, the last whispers of the sun. Ahead lies a kingdom of eternal night, the midnight zone. Here, darkness is not simply an absence. It is a ruler, absolute and unchallenged. The ocean has shed every memory of daylight, and in its place rises a realm where creatures carry their own suns inside them. The vessel's lights pierce the blackness, narrow beams cutting through a space that feels infinite. The darkness swallows them quickly, as though greedy, unwilling to allow light to linger. Yet the abyss answers. Pinpricks of blue, green, and crimson blink back in scattered constellations. Life here has learned to weave fire from chemistry, to glow not for beauty, but for survival. A siphonophore drifts into view, stretching for meters, its body divided into living units, each with its purpose. Some for feeding, some for movement, some for defense. Together, they form a creature that is not one but many, glowing like a galaxy adrift in water. To witness it is to feel small, like standing before the Milky Way. Except this cosmos is alive, hunting, breathing. Nearby, a lanternfish darts across the beam. Its scales glimmer with mirrored light, its belly pulsing with luminous organs. Billions of these fish roam the midnight zone, and their nightly migrations are among the largest movements of life on Earth. When darkness falls above, they rise toward the surface, feeding in waters touched by starlight. When dawn approaches, they sink again, retreating into the black. Their rhythm is the heartbeat of the deep, ancient, constant, unbroken. But not all who glow are prey. Hunters here turn light into a weapon. The anglerfish, with its grotesque lantern-like lure, dangles its glowing bait in front of jaws lined with translucent teeth. Its body is squat, almost shapeless, but efficient. In a world where food is scarce, deception is the anglerfish's gift. One mistake, one reckless swim toward light, and a victim vanishes into its stomach. The gulper eel, with its vast maw, swims past in a lazy coil. Its jaw unhinges like a monstrous trap, ready to engulf prey larger than itself. When illuminated by your vessel's beams, its body appears ghost-like, a ribbon of shadow with faint glimmers of light along its tail. It disappears into the dark with a single flick of movement, leaving only the impression of enormity. Pressure here is a silent predator. At these depths, it crushes with a force that would flatten submarines built in another age. Yet the creatures move as though unaware. Their bodies are water-rich, their bones soft, their flesh elastic. They have not fought against pressure. They have become part of it, yielding until they cannot be broken. Occasionally, your light touches fragments of the ocean's endless snowfall. Marine snow drifts down, a shimmering dust of life long ended, shells, skeletons, and fragments from above. It rains without sound, a slow and constant reminder of the world beyond reach. To us, it is decay. To them, it is sustenance. But survival here is not passive. Each shape, each glow, each silent drift carries a story of adaptation. Some creatures have eyes tuned to the faintest hint of bioluminescence, capable of catching a single photon of light. Others have abandoned sight entirely, relying on vibrations in the water, on currents felt rather than seen. In a place where light is a rarity, every sense bends itself toward survival. The midnight zone is not empty. It is abundant, but in ways that defy our imagination. Life glows, whispers, waits. And as your vessel drifts deeper, the truth becomes undeniable. In this place, life has not only survived without sunlight, it has flourished, rewriting the rules of existence itself. And yet, even as wonder fills the mind, so too does unease. For if these creatures can thrive in such extremes, what else may lurk unseen, larger, stranger, waiting beyond the reach of your fragile lights? The deeper you drift into the midnight zone, the more the concept of time begins to dissolve. Without the rise and fall of light, without the rhythm of day and night, hours lose their meaning. Down here, existence is measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the pulse of life itself, the slow drift of creatures, the soft hum of unseen currents, the patient waiting of predators that may go weeks before their next meal. It is a world sculpted by scarcity. Food is rare, energy precious. Every motion must be deliberate, every adaptation precise. Those who waste energy do not last long in this realm. And yet, despite the harshness, there is a strange, delicate balance here, a fragile harmony that has persisted for millions of years without sunlight, without seasons, without change. A faint movement catches the edge of your light. It is almost invisible, a ghost sliding through the dark. Then, as it drifts closer, it reveals itself, a barreleye fish. Its body is small, its mouth unremarkable, but its head is transparent, a dome of glass through which two bright green eyes gaze upward. They are fixed not on you, but on the faintest flickers above. The barreleye hunts by detecting silhouettes of prey against whatever scraps of light remain from the world above. Its head is a living telescope, and its bizarre appearance is the price of precision. Farther ahead, a cookie-cutter shark circles silently. Small and unassuming, it is a predator nonetheless, one that bites circular chunks from whales, dolphins, and even submarines. Its teeth are razors, its tactics surgical. It lives in the darkness, but feeds on creatures that rise from above, vanishing back into shadow before they even know it was there. Here, predators and prey exist in a delicate choreography. The bristlemouth fish, though barely larger than a finger, is among the most abundant vertebrates on Earth. Its sharp, comb-like teeth snare plankton and small crustaceans drifting down from the surface. Above it, a black dragonfish lurks, long, serpentine, and nearly invisible. Its fangs gleam faintly as it hovers, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But perhaps the most haunting of all are those who hide in plain sight. Some creatures here are transparent, their bodies nearly invisible to both predator and prey. Others are covered in reflective scales, turning them into mirrors that vanish against the faint glow from above. In the midnight zone, invisibility is survival, and those who achieve it rule silently. The deeper your vessel moves, the more alien the life becomes. Some organisms here never swim, never move. They drift with the current, living and dying without ever choosing a direction. Others are opportunists, scavengers that feed on anything, from falling whale carcasses to the remains of ancient plankton blooms. The ocean's most efficient recyclers work here, unseen, ensuring that nothing is wasted. Occasionally, the silence is broken by something extraordinary. The slow, graceful movement of a giant siphonophore, stretching more than 30 meters in length. It drifts past like a living ribbon, each segment glowing faintly, pulsing with bioluminescent rhythm. Though it appears as a single creature, it is in fact a colony, hundreds of individual organisms fused into one body, each performing a specialized role. In this world, even individuality bends to survival. As the lights of your vessel sweep across the darkness, you begin to sense the immensity of what surrounds you. This is not just an ecosystem. It is an entire universe beneath our feet, one that has evolved in isolation for millions of years. Every adaptation you see is a lesson. Every flicker of light a message. Life will always find a way. But there is another truth that lingers in the back of your mind, one that is both humbling and unsettling. We are not prepared for how much we do not know. Scientists believe we have documented less than 1% of deep-sea life. The rest remains hidden, unobserved, perhaps waiting in trenches deeper still, or existing in forms beyond our comprehension. And so, the question deepens as the water does. If this is the world we can see, glowing faintly against the black, what unimaginable wonders remain cloaked just beyond the reach of light? The further you sink, the more the ocean reshapes your perception of life itself. The midnight zone does not welcome visitors. It does not need to. It has thrived for millions of years in secrecy, an empire where existence is rewritten by necessity. And as your vessel drifts through its black corridors, you realize that every creature here carries within it a fragment of a larger story, a story of survival in its purest form. Suddenly, a flash. A comb jelly drifts past, shimmering like a jewel. Its body is translucent, but rows of cilia ripple with rainbow light, scattering color through the blackness. It does not create light through bioluminescence, but by refracting what little shines upon it, bending it into a fleeting spectrum. In a world stripped of sunlight, it has invented its own spectrum of beauty. Moments later, the spotlight brushes against another strange form. A gulper eel hovers in silence, its stomach grotesquely distended, filled with a meal it may not need to eat again for weeks. Its mouth is a vast cavern, opening wider than seems possible for its slender body. And then, with a single coil of its ribbon-like tail, it vanishes again, as though erased from the black canvas of water. Far below, something glimmers faintly in clusters. As you draw nearer, the vision becomes clearer. A school of hatchetfish. Their bodies are razor-thin, gleaming with mirrored scales that make them vanish when seen from above. From below, they appear as faint silhouettes against the dim traces of light. This dual camouflage allows them to remain invisible from both predator and prey, suspended between two perspectives. To see them is to understand. In this kingdom, invisibility is the highest art. But not every creature relies on disguise. Some embrace spectacle. The stoplight loosejaw, a predator of the abyss, glides into view. Its jaw opens impossibly wide, unhinged like a monstrous trap. Unlike most deep-sea hunters, it glows not only blue, but red, a color invisible to most fish in these depths. With this secret lantern, it illuminates prey without ever being detected. To watch it is to witness intelligence woven into evolution, a trick of survival that borders on strategy. The darkness outside the vessel grows heavier, pressing inward not only on steel, but on thought. A creeping sense of insignificance settles in. These creatures, though alien, belong here. You do not. Your lights, your instruments, your fragile craft, they are intrusions. You are reminded of explorers stepping into temples, unaware that every step alters what they seek to understand. The ocean responds in silence. Nothing here moves quickly without reason. Every flick of a fin, every pulse of light is measured. Patience is survival. Hunger is inevitable, but recklessness is death. In this balance lies a quiet wisdom. Perhaps you wonder the creatures of the midnight zone are not strange at all. Perhaps we are. We rush, we consume, we burn through energy without thought. Down here, life has chosen another path, one of silence, patience, and endurance. Your light sweeps across the seafloor, and there it is, the still shadow of a whale fall. The skeleton of a giant, resting in the sediment, ribs arching like the remains of a cathedral. Around it, life blooms. Hagfish writhe through the bones, tearing at what little flesh remains. Crustaceans scuttle across the sand, feasting on scraps. Bacteria swarm in invisible clouds, breaking down what even scavengers cannot consume. The death of one giant feeds an entire ecosystem for decades. The whale, in its passing, becomes the foundation of new life. This is the truth of the midnight zone. Everything here is connected, every fragment recycled, every death a beginning. In this cycle, there is no waste, no greed, only balance, endless and perfect. And as your vessel drifts farther into the black, one thought lingers. If life has thrived here for so long, in such balance, untouched by human hand, what will happen when we disturb it? The ocean remains silent, but its silence feels heavy. Perhaps it is not an answer, but a warning. The stillness of the abyss begins to feel alive, as if the water itself is breathing. Each pulse of current whispers across the hull. Each faint vibration reminds you that this is not emptiness. It is a realm filled with countless unseen lives. The darkness here is not void, but presence. Your instruments detect movement before your eyes do. A faint pulse appears on the sonar, then vanishes. Again, it flickers. Something vast is out there, moving in silence. You wait. Time stretches. Then slowly, a shape emerges from the shadows, a giant squid. Its arms drift like banners in slow motion. Its eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom, glow faintly as they catch your artificial light. It hovers for a moment, alien and ancient, before recoiling into the dark with a sudden, ghostly propulsion. This is not a myth. It is not a sailor's tale. It is a reminder that even in an age of satellites and machines, the sea still guards its secrets. What else lurks beyond your beam of light, watching unseen? Drifting deeper still, the temperature drops further, the pressure rising like an invisible hand around the vessel. Yet here too, life endures. Tiny shrimps and amphipods swarm near volcanic fissures, glowing faintly as they graze on microbial mats. Their movements seem chaotic, but they follow unseen rhythms as if orchestrated by the ocean itself. Your thoughts turn inward. How do these fragile forms survive in such crushing silence? How do they flourish where no sun has ever shone? The answer begins to reveal itself not in their bodies, but in their adaptations. Light has been replaced by chemistry, hunger by patience, weakness by resilience. They do not fight against the deep, they merge with it. A sudden burst of motion distracts you. Outside the window, a vampire squid floats, its cloak of skin stretched between its arms like a living umbrella. It does not hunt with aggression, but survives by drifting, conserving energy, feeding on marine snow, the endless rain of organic matter falling from above. Its name, fierce and dramatic, does not reflect its nature. It is a quiet survivor, a symbol of endurance, proof that life does not always thrive through dominance, but through balance. Every creature you encounter tells a similar story. The anglerfish, carrying its own lantern to lure prey. The barrelli fish, with a transparent head through which its tubular eyes gaze upward, watching for silhouettes above. Each adaptation feels like a poem written in flesh, verses shaped by pressure, hunger, and time. And then, silence. The sonar clears. No movements. The sea outside is empty, or so it seems. Your lights sweep across the darkness and reveal only stillness, particles drifting like snow. Yet you cannot shake the feeling of being observed. The ocean does not give away its mysteries freely. Perhaps the greatest creatures remain unseen, hidden in the black folds beyond reach. The thought lingers. How much of this world have we truly discovered? Scientists estimate that we have explored less than 5% of the deep sea. 5%, a fraction so small it borders on ignorance. The rest waits, unseen, perhaps unknowable. You lean back, listening to the hum of the vessel. In this moment, you are no longer just an observer. You are a trespasser, a visitor in a world that has survived for eons without us. A world where light is not needed, where silence is not emptiness, where death is not an ending. And yet, as the vessel begins its slow ascent, a strange melancholy settles in. For when you return to the surface, the memory of this place will feel dreamlike, as though you had walked through another dimension. The images of glowing jellies, of hidden predators, of skeletal giants feeding the earth will linger like fragments of myth. The midnight zone will close behind you, swallowing its secrets once more. What you have seen is not its entirety. It is only a glimpse, enough to remind you that the world is larger, stranger, and deeper than we ever imagined when standing on land. As the pressure eases and faint traces of light begin to filter back into the sea, one thought presses against your mind like the weight of the abyss itself. The ocean does not need us, but we need it. And if we fail to protect it, the silence that reigns below may someday reach the surface above. The descent into the abyss is not a fall. It is a surrender. Past the midnight zone lies a deeper kingdom, where pressure mounts to crushing extremes and temperatures hover just above freezing. This is the abyssal zone, stretching from 4,000 meters down to nearly 6,000. To enter it, it is to leave behind the familiar entirely, stepping into a world that feels more like another planet than part of our own Earth. The first sensation is silence. The hum of your vessel seems loud, intrusive, against the stillness outside. The water is black, not because light fails to reach it, but because light has never belonged here. It is an eternal night, unbroken even by the faintest glow of bioluminescence that filled the midnight zone above. Here, the creatures do not waste energy on display. They are pale, skeletal, and spectral, shaped by scarcity. A faint shimmer catches your eye, a sea cucumber, elongated and soft-bodied, inching slowly across the sediment. Its form is unremarkable at first glance, but to watch it is to witness the rhythm of the abyss. It moves with patience, consuming the thin layer of detritus, the marine snow, that covers the seafloor like dust. What seems insignificant is, in truth, survival itself. Without creatures like this, the ocean floor would choke under its own weight of decay. Nearby, a basket star sprawls across a rock, its arms branching like an intricate web. Each limb twists and coils, capturing drifting particles that the currents deliver. Its body is alien, almost floral, a living sculpture in a place where beauty feels both impossible and necessary. With every delicate movement, it demonstrates a quiet resilience, an artistry sculpted not by sunlight, but by pressure and patience. Then the seabed shifts, not in sound but in sight. A ripple moves through the sediment as a deep-sea holothurian, another cousin of the sea cucumber, inflates and glides a short distance before settling again. Here, even the act of moving is rare, costly, deliberate. Each action is measured against survival, each breath an exchange with the unforgiving dark. The abyss feels infinite. Vast plains stretch in every direction, broken only by the occasional mound or fracture in the seafloor. It is an alien desert, yet not barren. Beneath the surface of the sediment, armies of worms, microbes, and burrowing crustaceans thrive, unseen but essential. They form the hidden machinery of this kingdom, recycling nutrients, breaking down matter, keeping the system alive. And then, a reminder of scale. Ahead, the light of your vessel catches the faint outline of a tripod fish. Its long, spindly fins extend like stilts, allowing it to perch on the soft mud. It waits motionless, facing the current, sensing vibrations through its elongated fin rays. In the abyss, vision is meaningless. Instead, survival depends on touch, on the faintest signals carried through water. The tripod fish embodies the spirit of this kingdom: stillness, patience, endurance. The deeper you look, the more you realize that nothing here exists in isolation. Every creature, every adaptation, every strategy is part of an unseen equation. To survive at these depths is not to dominate but to endure, to find a way to exist within the crushing balance of scarcity and pressure. And yet, even in this silent kingdom, life reveals itself in bursts of wonder. A sudden glow appears, faint, wavering. At first, you suspect a drifting fragment of light from above, but then it pulses again, stronger, and another beside it. Slowly, a colony of deep-sea siphonophores drifts into view. Their translucent bodies link together like a living chain, stretching meters upon meters across the water. Each unit in the colony is specialized, some for feeding, some for movement, others for defense. Yet together, they move as one organism. It is not a creature. It is a community, bound in perfect synchrony, a floating testament to cooperation in a world defined by isolation. The abyssal zone, for all its desolation, reveals something profound. Life does not merely exist here. It flourishes in quiet, subtle, deliberate forms. It thrives not by defying the darkness, but by becoming part of it. And as you drift through this kingdom, you realize this is not emptiness. It is fullness, expressed in a language we are only beginning to understand. The deeper you drift into the abyssal plains, the more surreal the seafloor becomes. It stretches endlessly, like a barren desert made of silt and shadow. But unlike a desert, it is not empty. Every grain of sediment, every ripple in the mud, conceals hidden life. The ocean here does not boast its wonders openly. It guards them, veiling them in patience. Your light catches movement, slow and deliberate. A grenadier fish glides across the murk. Its body is elongated, tapering to a thin whip-like tail, its large head crowned by eyes that reflect just enough light to betray its presence. The grenadier is not a swift predator. It is a scavenger, forever searching the seafloor for scraps. Its body is built not for power, but for endurance. In the abyss, those who survive are those who wait. Nearby, faint trails line the sand. They weave across the bottom like signatures, evidence of creatures unseen. Small crustaceans have passed here, burrowing into the mud, feeding on detritus that drifts down from the surface world miles above. To follow these trails is to glimpse the hidden economy of the abyss, an ecosystem that thrives on what the rest of the ocean discards. Then, something vast comes into view. Not alive, yet not lifeless. A shape half buried in the sediment, ribs arching like the remnants of a cathedral. Another whale fall. Its bones, stripped of flesh, gleam faintly under your lights. And yet, the closer you move, the more it reveals itself as a thriving city. Hagfish writhe within the ribcage, gnawing at marrow. Crabs scuttle across the vertebrae, feasting on scraps left by others. Invisible bacteria coat the surfaces, breaking bone into nutrients that feed worms, mollusks, and microscopic communities. A single whale's death sustains generations. The abyss does not waste. It transforms tragedy into renewal. The sight lingers. In the world above, death is final. Here, it is fertile, a beginning woven into an ending. You realize that in this place, life has no singular form. It exists as a cycle, a continuous exchange. Nothing here is alone. Your journey continues. The seafloor changes subtly, shifting from mudplains into rocky rises. It is here that the silence is broken by something extraordinary. Ahead, a faint shimmer, like a mirage. You approach cautiously, and the illusion resolves into reality. A hydrothermal vent. Black smoke billows upward, carrying with it minerals and heat from beneath the Earth's crust. The water here shimmers with distortion, rising to temperatures unimaginable for these depths. And yet, around this violent fracture, life blossoms in abundance. Towering tube worms sway in the heated currents, their red plumes glowing like embers in the dark. Giant clams cluster along the rocks, their shells gleaming with iridescence. Shrimp swarm in thick clouds, their bodies feeding on bacteria that thrive in the vent's chemical soup. This is not sunlight-driven life. This is chemosynthesis, energy drawn not from the sky, but from the earth itself. Microbes convert toxic chemicals into nourishment, and in turn, they feed creatures that should not exist in such a hostile place. To witness it is to realize that life does not merely adapt. It reinvents its own rules. The vent roars silently, clouds of black and white smoke twisting into the darkness. Around it, creatures gather like pilgrims at a sacred fire. Some live for decades, their entire existence bound to this fragile oasis. Others drift in and out, feeding before vanishing into the abyss again. But all are bound to this miracle of chemistry, this reminder that Earth's heartbeat reaches even into the deepest seas. As you watch, a thought stirs. If life can emerge here, in such hostile, alien conditions, then where else might it exist? Could oceans beneath the icy crusts of distant moons, Europa, Enceladus, harbor their own vents, their own kingdoms of strange beings? Perhaps the abyssal zone of Earth is not just a hidden world, but a mirror of what life beyond might resemble. The longer you linger, the more it feels like trespassing on a sacred place. The vent breathes, the creatures move in unison, the currents shimmer with heat. This is not a ruin. It is a sanctuary, and in the glow of chemical fire, the abyss whispers its truth. Life is not fragile. It is unyielding, finding a way in even the harshest of voids. You drift away, leaving the vent behind, its glow fading into blackness. But its vision stays etched into memory, a beacon in the eternal dark, proof that life's possibilities are boundless. The abyss stretches onward like an endless plain, but its stillness is deceptive. Every so often, the seafloor reveals a reminder that this world is alive in ways that defy expectation. You drift above ridges of jagged rock, remnants of ancient volcanic activity, where shadows seem to ripple even in the absence of movement. And then, from the blackness, a creature glides into view. It is a cusk eel, pale and ghostly, its body slender and elongated, moving with an eerie, serpentine grace. Unlike the name suggests, it is not an eel at all but a fish, one of countless species adapted specifically to the crushing pressures of the abyss. Its large mouth is a trap, ready to engulf anything unfortunate enough to pass too close. It does not waste energy in pursuit. It waits, conserving, embodying the very rhythm of this world. Patience over haste, stillness over frenzy. Not far behind, another ghost drifts by, the abyssal grenadier, its body tapering into a whip-like tail, its head swollen with organs designed to process every scrap of meager nourishment. Together, these spectral fish embody the spirit of the abyss, opportunists in a land of scarcity, each perfectly sculpted by hunger and time. The deeper you travel, the more surreal the kingdom becomes. The plains give way to scattered oases of strange formations. Manganese nodules litter the seafloor, round and metallic, like blackened pearls scattered across the mud. They grow imperceptibly, layer upon layer over millions of years, accumulating minerals from the seawater. In their silence, they tell a story older than humanity itself. Yet they are not untouched. Already, industries eye them as resources to be mined, threatening to disturb a system that has existed in balance for ages. Beyond the nodules, the lights of your vessel catch movement, not a single creature, but thousands. A dense cloud of amphipods swirls like snowflakes caught in a storm, their tiny bodies feeding on whatever drifts down from above. They are the base of the abyssal food web, overlooked yet essential. Without them, the larger predators would starve. Their presence reminds you that even in the deep, survival depends on countless fragile links in a chain. And then, silence again. A shadow looms at the edge of your vision. Immense, unshaped, more felt than seen. The sonar pings faintly, registering a presence larger than your vessel. You wait, breath held, until it moves. Slowly, a massive deep-sea jellyfish drifts past, its bell glowing faintly with an inner light. Its tentacles trail behind, impossibly long, curling and unfurling like strands of smoke. It is not a predator of violence, but of patience, snaring the unsuspecting with threads as fine as silk. To witness it is to feel small, as though you are standing in the presence of something primordial, something that has pulsed through the oceans for millions of years, unchanged. Farther along, another form rises from the mud, a sea spider, its thin legs stretched across the seafloor, its body reduced to little more than a vessel for survival. It moves slowly, carefully, siphoning nutrients from soft corals and sponges that cling to rocky outcrops. At first, its alien appearance is unsettling. But the longer you watch, the more you see its quiet elegance, a creature surviving not through strength, but through subtlety. The abyssal kingdom does not overwhelm with abundance. Instead, it whispers through fragments, a drifting jelly, a scavenging fish, a colony of unseen microbes. Each one a note and a symphony too vast for human ears to hear in full. You begin to realize that here, grandeur is not measured in numbers, but in endurance. Every life that flickers in this kingdom is a triumph against pressure, hunger, and time. Yet, as serene as it seems, the abyss is not beyond danger. Plastic has been found even here, tangled around the limbs of amphipods, embedded in the stomachs of scavenging fish. Traces of human presence, alien, invasive, drift down relentlessly. What was once a world untouched now carries the fingerprints of a species that has never even walked these plains. And still, the creatures endure. They move, they feed, they wait. For them, survival is not a choice, but a constant state of being. The abyssal kingdom does not resist intrusion, it absorbs it, quietly, silently. But how long can such silence endure before it fractures? As your vessel drifts onward, you cannot escape the feeling that you are witnessing not just a hidden kingdom, but a fragile one. A world that thrives in balance, but trembles under the shadow of what waits above. The abyss grows stranger the longer you remain within it. Hours pass, though time feels meaningless here. There is no sunrise, no sunset, only an unbroken night. Your vessel becomes a fragile bubble of light drifting through an eternal black. Every movement outside feels like an apparition. Every glimpse a reminder that this world is far older, far more enduring than the one above. Ahead, a faint shimmer emerges. At first, it appears like drifting snow, but as the vessel moves closer, the illusion dissolves into something alive. A swarm of sea lily, stalked crinoids anchored to the seafloor, their feathered arms reaching upward like flowers in a garden of shadows. With every slow, graceful motion, they capture drifting particles from the currents. They seem delicate, fragile, almost ornamental, yet they have survived unchanged since ancient seas long before the first humans stood on land. Watching them feels like gazing backward through time, into an era where life was only beginning its long ascent. Not far beyond, another marvel. Rising from the mud is a giant isopod, armored and pale, its segmented body glistening under the lights. It moves with the slow deliberation of a creature that knows energy is precious, its antennae probing the sediment for signs of food. It is the deep-sea cousin of the pill bugs that crawl beneath stones in gardens above, and yet here, in the abyss, it has grown monstrous in scale. Its alien form reminds you that evolution does not sculpt for beauty, but for endurance. The seafloor shifts again, and suddenly you are gliding past a trench-like depression. Within it, faint movements stir. Long, pale polychaete worms writhe in the sediment, weaving through the mud like threads of living fabric. Their bristles shimmer faintly as they burrow, tirelessly recycling the ocean's detritus. Here, hidden beneath the surface, lies an unseen army, maintaining the balance of this world grain by grain. Then, without warning, the plain opens into something vast. Before you rises a series of towering structures, chimneys of rock and mineral, billowing with faint, ghostly plumes. Unlike the violent hydrothermal vents seen earlier, these are cold seeps. Instead of heat, they release methane and hydrogen sulfide into the dark water. And just as with the vents, life gathers here in abundance. Mussels and clams cluster in colonies so dense they resemble fields, each hosting symbiotic bacteria within their tissues that convert chemicals into sustenance. Tube worms grow in clusters, pale and spectral, their plumes swaying in invisible currents. Crabs scuttle across the seep's edges, feeding on whatever the community offers. The cold seep is an oasis in the desert, a fragile economy powered not by sunlight, not even by volcanic heat, but by chemistry alone. You linger in silence, watching the strange congregation. The thought stirs again. If life can thrive here, in such alien extremes, is Earth's deep ocean not a blueprint for what life beyond might look like? A world of energy not drawn from stars, but from the hidden fires of planets themselves. And yet, even here, the abyss whispers of fragility. Methane hydrates, frozen reservoirs beneath the seafloor, glisten faintly, vulnerable to disturbance. Were they to destabilize, the consequences would ripple not just through the ocean, but through the climate of the surface world above. The abyss is not disconnected from us. It is woven into the very breath of the planet. The final stretch of the abyssal plain passes in silence. Amphipods drift like snowflakes, grenadiers patrol the mud, sea cucumbers inch forward in endless procession. The creatures here are not dramatic, not monstrous, but essential. They are the gears of a machine too vast to comprehend, too delicate to tamper with. At last, your instruments signal a change ahead, the edge of the abyssal plain. The seafloor begins to fall away, dropping into darkness even deeper. Beyond lies the Hadal zone, the trenches, places where the earth itself seems to open, swallowing light, swallowing life. You realize the abyssal kingdom, for all its silence and endurance, has only been a threshold. The true depths still wait below. As the vessel hovers at the edge, the abyss closes behind you like a great black curtain. You leave it with awe, but also with unease. The creatures, the vents, the seeps, they endure, but they endure in balance. And balance, once broken, is hard to restore. The abyss does not resist, does not rage, does not shout. It waits, and that waiting feels more powerful than any roar. The edge of the abyssal plain does not end in a gentle slope. It breaks. The seafloor plunges downward in sheer walls, descending into shadows deeper than imagination. Here begins the Hadal zone, the ocean trenches. Named after Hades, the underworld of Greek myth, this realm lies between 6,000 and 11,000 meters below the surface. Few have ever ventured here. Fewer still have returned with images or stories. To descend into the trenches is to step into Earth's most secret chambers. The first impression is scale. The trench is not a canyon carved by rivers, but a scar etched by the planet itself. Where tectonic plates collide, one slips beneath the other, dragging the seafloor into yawning chasms that stretch thousands of kilometers. The Mariana Trench, the deepest of them all, could swallow Mount Everest and still have space above its peak. To imagine such depth is one thing. To enter it is another. Your vessel hovers over the rim. The abyssal plain behind you feels almost comforting now, compared to the precipice ahead. As you drift forward, the descent begins. The walls of the trench rise like mountains on either side, but they are not static. They are alive with landslides, with fractures, with shifting rock. This is the most unstable part of the ocean, where the Earth's crust itself groans under unimaginable forces. And yet, even here, life clings. Small amphipods scurry across the rocks, pale and translucent, adapted to withstand pressures that would crush steel. Their bodies are flexible, their chemistry altered to prevent collapse. They feed on particles drifting down the trench walls, recycling fragments of life from the world above. Watching them, you realize that even the harshest edges of this planet are never truly barren. Deeper still, your lights reveal something unexpected. Translucent snailfish, drifting gracefully in the dark. They are the deepest living vertebrates known to science. their bodies soft and gelatinous, their bones reduced to the barest structure. Fragile in appearance, yet thriving where almost nothing else can. They glide along the trench walls, feeding on amphipods, their existence a paradox, delicate yet unbreakable. The silence here is different from the abyss above. It is heavier, as though the water itself carries the weight of the world. Each creak of the vessel reminds you of where you are, within pressures so extreme they could crush a submarine in an instant. And yet, within this crushing void, life not only endures, but evolves into forms found nowhere else on Earth. The trench floor begins to appear, a plain of soft sediment stretching into darkness. It is not smooth but scarred, rippled by quakes and landslides. Marine snow drifts down here too, though slower, thinner, more precious. Every scrap of organic matter that survives the descent is a treasure, devoured quickly by amphipods, worms, and other scavengers. In the trenches, food is rarer than oxygen, and every fragment of it is contested. You pause, instrument scanning. The data reveals a shocking truth. The biomass of amphipods here is immense. They swarm in the sediment, billions strong, forming the foundation of trench ecosystems. They are not large, not fierce, not luminous, but they are survivors. Without them, the trenches would be deserts. With them, they become living, breathing worlds. And then, your lights catch something larger. A giant amphipod, many times the size of its shallow water cousins, lumbers across the trench floor. Its body gleams translucent, its eyes reflecting faintly. Evolution here has not shrunk creatures, but expanded them. Gigantism born from the slow, relentless pressures of time and survival. The scene is mesmerizing. The trench, once imagined as empty, is revealed as full, not of abundance, but of resilience. Each creature is a symbol of persistence, proof that life does not surrender, even at 11 kilometers below the sunlit world. Yet, the longer you linger, the more haunting the trench becomes. There is no sense of welcome here, no warmth. Only endurance. The trench does not embrace life. It tests it. And those who remain are those who have passed its endless trial. The vessel drifts forward, deeper into the heart of the chasm. The walls vanish into darkness above. The floor stretches into blackness below. You are now within the Earth's deepest chamber, where silence reigns and survival itself is a miracle. The further you drift along the trench floor, the more surreal the world becomes. It is not just the absence of light, or the pressure that presses against the hull like an invisible hand. It is the knowledge that you are trespassing in a realm untouched, a cathedral carved in silence, where every inhabitant has paid a price to exist. Occasionally, your lights catch strange movements. A thread-like worm coils through the sediment, glowing faintly with internal fluids that shimmer when disturbed. It vanishes almost instantly, as though the light itself is a predator. Here, everything hides, everything conserves. The trench is not a place for showmanship. It is a place where survival depends on silence. The sensors detect chemical signatures, methane seeps, hydrogen sulfide vents, invisible fountains rising from fractures in the trench floor. Around them, life gathers in secret colonies. Tube worms, shrimp-like creatures, and ghostly crabs feed not on drifting scraps from above, but on bacteria that thrive in chemical darkness. These microbes form the base of an ecosystem entirely detached from the sun. It is a reminder that Earth holds multiple worlds within it, each obeying different rules. The crabs move slowly, deliberately, as though each step must be considered. Their shells are not brilliant, not armored in color, but pale, almost colorless, adapted for a world where camouflage means blending into nothing at all. They are predators here, feeding on weaker crustaceans that wander too close to the vents. Watching them, you realize that even in a world so deprived, competition thrives. Then, a tremor shudders through the trench. The walls in the distance groan. releasing plumes of sediment. The ocean is never still here. The collision of tectonic plates ensures that the trench is a place of constant instability, shifting landscapes born from forces far beyond human control. A reminder that these abysses are not just deep. They are alive, restless, dangerous. As the water clears, you spot something extraordinary. An amphipod swarm, so dense it looks like a living cloud. Thousands upon thousands of translucent bodies, each the size of a fingertip, move as one, feeding on a fresh deposit of organic matter that has settled from above. Perhaps the remains of a whale, perhaps fragments of storms. To these creatures, it is a feast of unimaginable abundance. They devour it with a frenzy that lasts only minutes, reducing it to nothing before dispersing back into the emptiness. The trench, you realize, is not simply a place of scarcity. It is a place of extremes. Famine followed by feast, silence broken by violence, emptiness punctuated by sudden abundance. Life here has learned not just to endure, but to seize every fleeting chance. And yet, amid these swarms and scavengers, something drifts into view that feels almost otherworldly. A shadow, long and fluid, glides just beyond the reach of your lights. Its form is uncertain, shifting, elusive. You catch glimpses, a fin, a ribbon-like body, a mouth too wide for its size. It lingers for a moment, then disappears into the black. No camera has captured it. No name exists for it. But the trench hides giants, legends yet to be told, and some things are seen only once before vanishing forever. The thought lingers, how much of this world remains unseen? How many creatures slip through the nets of exploration, leaving only questions? The trench floor is not a museum to be catalogued, but a living frontier, infinite in its mysteries. Even your instruments, designed for precision, falter here. Signals echo strangely in the depths, distorted by pressure and silence. The ocean itself bends information. What is real? What is illusion? In the trench, certainty itself erodes. As you drift onward, a kind of reverence settles in. These depths are not cruel, not hostile in the human sense. They are indifferent. They demand no recognition, no worship. And yet, standing at the threshold of such vastness, you cannot help but feel small, temporary, fragile. Humanity has climbed mountains, crossed deserts, walked on the moon. But here, in the folds of its own planet, it remains a stranger. And as your lights sweep across the trench one last time, illuminating amphipods, snailfish, and pale crabs, you sense it clearly. The secrets of this abyss are not waiting to be discovered. They are content to remain unknown. The descent presses on, and with every passing meter, the trench becomes stranger, more alien. Your vessel drifts through a silence so absolute, it feels physical, as though the ocean itself has sealed away sound. Even the hum of the instrument seems swallowed whole, devoured by the crushing dark. Suddenly, your floodlights reveal a shape in the sediment, the skeletal remains of a whale half buried in silt. It is not fresh. Time has reduced it to a framework of ivory, gleaming faintly in the artificial glow. Yet around it, life still swarms. Worms weave through the marrow cavities, amphipods gnaw at what fragments remain, and pale epauts slither through the ribs like shadows made flesh. A whale fall is a banquet in the deep, sustaining communities for decades. Even in death, life here thrives. The trench consumes nothing fully. Every fragment is used, recycled, transformed. Moving past the skeletal grave, your lights pick up glimmers of motion in the water. At first, they seem like particles, drifting slowly. But then they pulse, contracting and expanding in rhythm. They are gelatinous creatures, nearly invisible, bodies as delicate as glass. Some pulse with faint bioluminescence, soft blues and purples blooming in the dark like ghostly flowers. They are fragile, almost impossible to capture, yet they flourish where pressure would shatter steel. Their existence feels like defiance, life choosing beauty even at the edge of survival. And then, deeper still, your instruments register an anomaly, a faint rumble. The trench is never silent for long. The plates above grind and shift, releasing energy that shivers through the water like an invisible storm. A small landslide erupts in the distance, sending a plume of silt rising like smoke. For a moment, the world vanishes into a haze, and you are suspended in blindness. It feels endless. You are reminded how easy it is, in this place, to be swallowed whole and forgotten. But as the water clears, something remarkable emerges. A cluster of vents, seeping not with volcanic heat like black smokers of the mid-ocean ridges, but with cold, dense brine pools, lakes within the ocean. Their surfaces shimmer, boundaries sharp, as though the sea itself were layered. Around their edges, bizarre life gathers. Mussels with shells streaked in pale silver, shrimps twitching in restless clouds, microbial mats painting the sediment in hues of cream and rust. These pools are deadly, hypersaline, toxic, dense enough to suffocate anything that drifts inside. And yet, they are also nurseries for life that knows no other refuge. The sight is mesmerizing. A lake on the seafloor, still and silent, encircled by beings that should not exist. It is a mirror of paradox, life flourishing and poison. A reminder that survival in the trenches does not follow human logic, but its own ancient design. Your journey continues across the trench floor, and soon the lights catch more giants. A sea cucumber, meters long, undulates slowly across the sediment like a drifting ribbon. It feeds by swallowing the very mud, sifting for fragments of nourishment invisible to the eye. Every grain of silt here may contain the remnants of a life lived thousands of meters above, and nothing is wasted. Behind it, faint tracks curve through the sediment, trails of unseen travelers, fragile signatures written upon the floor of the Earth's deepest chamber. The further you go, the more the trench feels alive not just with creatures, but with memory. Each scar on the wall, each plume of sediment, each skeleton, each track, all whisper fragments of stories beyond human reach. The trench does not simply contain life. It contains time, compressed, silent, unbroken. And then it comes the moment of realization. That despite the lights, the instruments, the vessel, what you have seen is but the smallest glimpse. Beyond the glow and the eternal black, there are worlds untouched, species unnamed, secrets unimagined. The trench is not waiting to be conquered. It is endless, inexhaustible, immeasurable. Here, on the floor of the Hadal zone, you understand the truth. Humanity is not the explorer, not the master. It is the guest. The abyss tolerates our presence only briefly, before swallowing us back into the silence. The vessel drifts forward, deeper into this cathedral of shadows, where giants hide, microbes reign, and every heartbeat feels like borrowed time. The walls of the trench rise so high above that they might as well be horizons. The floor stretches flat and endless, a plane of shadow where even the beams of your vessel seem swallowed at their edges. In this final stretch, you begin to sense the true immensity of what lies here. Not just the creatures that endure, but the silence that defines them. The lights sweep across a slow-moving shape, vast and unfamiliar. At first, it resembles a drifting current of silt, a trick of the eye. But then it flexes, bends, and turns. A creature longer than a human body, eel-like yet broader, its skin translucent, its organs faintly visible, glowing with a dim shimmer. It vanishes almost instantly into the black. No record of its kind exists. You wonder if you have seen something no other eyes ever have, or ever will again. In the trench, rarity is not exception, but law. Farther on, another graveyard emerges. Not whales this time, but fish. Their bodies lie scattered across the sediment, victims perhaps of a sudden landslide or a shifting current. Around them, amphipods swarm in relentless numbers, reducing flesh to skeleton in hours. Nothing here lingers. Death is as valuable as life, a currency exchanged without hesitation. Yet the scene shifts quickly, for the trench is never still. In the distance, a subtle glow forms, not of bioluminescence, but of chemical release. Seismic tension beneath the seafloor vents bursts upward, releasing fluids rich with minerals. The plume drifts in the water like smoke, shimmering with strange beauty. Around it, microbial mats blossom within days, painting the barren sediment in films of life. Even earthquakes, even destruction, become sources of creation here. You hover close to the vent, and for a moment you are struck by the paradox that in the deepest, most crushing silence, life is not fragile at all, but ferociously creative. Where humans would imagine only desolation, the ocean writes new chapters of evolution, unseen and uninterrupted. And then, something unexpected. A faint metallic gleam catches the light. At first, you dismiss it as mineral deposits, but as you drift nearer, it becomes undeniable. Fragments of human presence, twisted steel, cables, the ghost of a machine crushed long ago. Perhaps an experimental probe. Perhaps debris from storms above. Whatever its origin, it lies mangled, unrecognizable, a relic of human intrusion now claimed by the trench. Around it, amphipods crawl indifferently, transforming it into part of their world. The realization is sobering. Even here, in the remotest depths of the planet, humanity's shadow falls. Not as conqueror, but as castaway. Our creations are fragile in comparison to the forces at work here. In time, even steel dissolves, even memory fades. The trench reclaims everything. The vessel drifts onward, and the walls close once more, towering cliffs of rock fractured by eons of collision. In their cracks, tiny creatures pulse. Shrimp, worms, snails, each no larger than a fingernail, yet surviving where nothing should. They are insignificant in size, but monumental in meaning. Their presence whispers the deepest truth of the trench, that life is not a miracle reserved for comfort, but a force that insists on existing, even when all odds oppose it. You pause the descent here. The instruments hum. The lights dim against the immensity. There is no end to the trench, no final chamber where its mysteries resolve. Only greater darkness, greater silence, greater secrets. To travel deeper would be to enter a realm beyond comprehension. And so, for now, the journey pauses, not because the trench has revealed all it holds, but because it never will. Some truths are not meant to be fully grasped, only brushed against like the flicker of a shadow in the dark. The Hadal Zone is one such truth. A reminder that the Earth still holds domains that belong not to us, but to itself. As the vessel turns and begins its slow ascent, leaving behind the scar of the planet's making, the feeling is not of triumph, nor of conquest. It is humility. The trench has given you a glimpse, no more. And in that glimpse, it has reshaped your understanding of life, of survival, of the vastness that still lies hidden within the world you thought you knew. The darkness closes once more, and the silence deepens. Behind you, the trench remains, unbroken, untouched, eternal. The ascent begins, yet the trench lingers in your mind like a dream that refuses to fade. You rise through kilometers of water, each meter carrying you closer to the surface world. But still, the silence of the abyss clings to you. For in truth, you have not left it. The trench is more than a place. It is a reminder, a truth that follows. Above, the abyssal plains stretch once again, vast and featureless. Yet now, after what you have seen, they no longer appear barren. They are corridors that lead to secrets far beyond sight, highways of darkness carrying whispers of worlds unseen. Every particle of marine snow drifting past seems charged with new meaning. Fragments of lives, memories of storms, echoes of the living world above, sinking endlessly into the hungry mouth of the earth. The vessel glides slowly, instruments still recording, and your thoughts drift to the creatures below. Amphipods, transparent and tireless, devouring the scraps that sustain their world. Snailfish, fragile in form but resilient in spirit, gliding with a grace that defies the crushing weight around them. Worms feeding on bones, crabs wandering around toxic lakes, gelatinous beings pulsing like living glass. Their shapes blur together, but their message remains. Life endures everywhere, in ways we cannot imagine. The ocean trenches are more than geological scars. They are time capsules. Within their depths, life has evolved in near isolation for millions of years, following pathways utterly separate from the sunlit world. Each trench is a vault of evolution, an archive of survival strategies written in flesh, bone, and lightless persistence. To study them is not just to discover new species, but to peer into the very story of life itself, a story that reminds us that adaptation has no single form, no single rule. And yet, these stories remain incomplete. Humanity has sent more people to the moon than to the Hadal depths. Our knowledge of Mars may already exceed our understanding of the trenches that lie beneath our own oceans. How many creatures still drift unseen in that darkness? How many ecosystems thrive where no camera has ever reached? How many mysteries, like shadows waiting in silence, will never be revealed? This thought lingers as you rise. The trench is a paradox, utterly indifferent to human presence, and yet deeply connected to our fate. For the oceans shape the planet's climate, absorb its heat, regulate its storms. The life in its depths recycles carbon, stabilizes systems far beyond itself. What happens in the trenches, unseen, ripples outward until it touches the air we breathe. Your lights flicker against a vast black. A school of lanternfish passes, their bodies shimmering with points of bioluminescence. They are not trench dwellers, but migrants of the mid-water depths, rising and sinking with the daily rhythm of the sea. Their glow feels almost celebratory, as though the deep itself is reminding you that the ocean is not only a place of silence, but also of light, fragile, fleeting, but undeniably alive. And still, there is that sense of unfinished encounter. You have glimpsed giants without names, seen shadows without definition, felt tremors of a world in constant flux. The trench has not revealed itself fully, and perhaps it never will. Perhaps it is not meant to. Mystery, after all, is its essence. As the ascent continues, a realization crystallizes. The value of the trenches lies not only in what we learn, but in what we cannot. They remind us that there are still places beyond mastery, still frontiers that resist our instruments, still truths too vast to be reduced to data. And in a world where so much is charted, measured, mapped, such reminders are precious. You are nearing the upper abyss now. Pressure eases, though still immense. The light remains absent. And yet, you feel the presence of something greater. Not just the creatures, not just the geology, but the ocean itself. A force of continuity, a reservoir of memory, a mirror of both Earth's violence and its endurance. The eternal mystery of the deep is not simply its depth, nor its darkness, nor its life. It is the fact that it exists at all, untouched, unbroken, waiting in silence while the world above changes endlessly. The ascent slows, and with it comes reflection. To rise from the trench is not to escape it, but to carry its silence upward. Every kilometer gained feels less like leaving and more like surfacing from a memory. You find yourself glancing back, though the abyss behind is already swallowed in blackness, as if it never existed. But it does, endlessly, patiently, invisibly. At this depth, new travelers appear. Jellyfish, vast and delicate, drift like apparitions in the currents. Their bells expand and contract with the rhythm of breathing, their tendrils trailing in endless grace. Some emit light when disturbed, flashing electric blue in the darkness. Each pulse feels like a heartbeat of the ocean itself, reminding you that even in the void, beauty flourishes. You think of the creatures you have left behind. Snailfish swimming in silence, amphipods swarming across the trench floor, worms coiled in whale bones. Their lives may seem remote, unconnected to the surface world, but they are threads in the same tapestry. Without them, the ocean would falter. Without the ocean, life on land would collapse. The trench is not separate from us. It is the foundation beneath us. And yet, humanity rarely considers this hidden world. Our maps of the continents are precise. Our satellites gaze outward into galaxies. But beneath our own waves lies a frontier more alien than Mars. There is humility in that thought, that the greatest wilderness may not be in the stars, but in the depths of the seas that cradle our very existence. A shadow drifts across your view. At first, it seems like current, a distortion in the water. But then it takes form, a giant squid, its tentacles unfurling like ribbons of night. Its body pulses, propelling it forward with effortless power. An eye the size of a fist glances in your direction, gleaming with an intelligence that feels ancient. For a moment, predator and observer share the same silence, suspended in mutual recognition. Then, with a single movement, it vanishes into the black. Encounters like this remind you that legends often begin in truth. Sailors once spoke of krakens rising from the sea, devouring ships whole. Today, science strips away myth, yet what remains is no less extraordinary. The trenches and their surrounding depths harbor creatures so strange, so colossal, that they blur the boundary between imagination and reality. The currents grow stronger as you rise, subtle rivers within the ocean itself. They carry warmth from the surface downward, nutrients from the deep upward, linking every level of the sea into a single breathing system. The trench you left behind is part of this circulation, a hidden engine driving currents that touch every shore. It is easy to forget, living on land, how much of our world is bound to these unseen motions. The weather, the climate, even the air in our lungs, all shaped by the whispers of the deep. A sudden flicker interrupts your thoughts. Bioluminescence blooming in streaks and spirals, triggered by the wake of the vessel. Tiny organisms, disturbed by movement, ignite in waves of light. For a brief, breathtaking moment, it feels as though you are rising through a galaxy, stars swirling in slow motion around you. This is not illusion, but biology. Creatures whose survival depends on light conjured from within, defying the darkness. The sight stirs something deeper than wonder. It is a reminder that life adapts not only to endure, but to astonish. In the trenches, survival is often invisible, muted, hidden in silence. But here, in the midwaters, it bursts into spectacle. Both extremes belong to the same truth. Life will find a way, in shadows or in brilliance. And as you continue upward, you realize that the true mystery of the deep is not whether we will ever understand it fully. The mystery is how it continues to shape us, even in our ignorance. The ocean trenches are not waiting for discovery. They are shaping the world regardless of whether we look. They are indifferent to our knowledge, yet inseparable from our survival. You are rising closer to light now. Yet you know, in some quiet way, that the darkness remains with you, not as fear, but as reverence. For to glimpse the abyss is to be reminded that Earth itself is vaster, stranger, and more alive than we can ever fully comprehend. The water grows lighter, though still dark. Somewhere far above, the sun exists, but here it is only a memory, faint and unreachable. Your vessel continues to rise, carrying with it not just instruments and data, but a burden of awe. For you have seen what lies where no light dares to go, and the weight of that vision will never leave. A slow shape appears in the distance. At first, it is featureless, a moving blur in the haze. Then it resolves into a barrelli fish, its transparent skull glowing under the vessel's lights. Its eyes, green and tubular, swivel upward, able to gaze directly at the world above through a dome of living glass. It is an impossible design, a body sculpted for survival in the twilight. Watching it drift away, you feel the familiar pull of humility. How little we know of the forms life may take when freed from our imagination. The trench is far below now, invisible, but its lessons remain sharp. You think of the whale skeletons and the swarms of amphipods, of the snailfish and the brine pools. Each was a revelation, yet each was also a fragment of something greater. The trench is not a single mystery, but countless mysteries layered atop one another, a library without end. Humanity has read only the first page. The vessel rises past schools of squid, their bodies flickering with pulses of light as though speaking in an untranslatable code. Some chase, some flee, some simply drift, their lives carried by the currents. You wonder what they see when they look into the dark. Do they sense the trenches below, or is their universe defined only by the world they inhabit? To them, the abyss is not a question. It is simply home. And perhaps that is the deepest truth, that the mystery belongs not to the creatures, but to us. They are not unsettled by the darkness, not troubled by the silence. Only humanity, craving knowledge, feels the trench as a question. The animals of the deep feel no mystery. They feel existence. You drift further upward, and for a fleeting instant, another shadow crosses your path. Larger than the giant squid before, slower, more deliberate. A vast shadow of a shark, perhaps a six-gill, or even something older, something unseen for centuries. It glides with confidence, as though it owns the dark. And in truth, it does. Predators here are not hunters of opportunity, but monarchs of time, their rule unchallenged in silence. You hold your breath, though the creature pays you no mind. Then it passes, vanishing back into the void, leaving only your racing pulse. The ascent continues, and with it comes a shift in your thoughts. The trench is not merely a place where life clings to survival. It is a place where life rewrites the very rules of survival. Creatures here endure pressures we cannot withstand, chemical storms we cannot breathe, darkness we cannot penetrate. And yet, in their alien resilience, they teach us something profoundly human, that survival is not strength alone. It is adaptation. It is change. It is the willingness to exist, no matter the cost. The vessel hums softly, a fragile shell of human ingenuity carrying you upward. You think of the fragments of twisted steel you saw buried in the sediment below, relics of failed attempts, reminders that the trench does not bend for us. We enter it briefly, carefully, and always at its mercy. Perhaps one day we will build vessels strong enough to linger there indefinitely. But even then, the trench will not be conquered. It will only be borrowed. Bioluminescence flares again outside the window. Not a single spark, but a cascade, triggered by unseen predators moving through shoals of tiny plankton. For a moment, the ocean becomes a living constellation, galaxies unfolding in water. It is fleeting, vanishing almost as soon as it appeared, but it leaves you breathless. The stars above may be unreachable, but the stars below drift within arm's length, hidden in darkness until disturbed. The ascent continues, pressure eases, darkness thins. The trench is far below, yet its echo endures. And as you rise closer to the surface, the realization sharpens. The eternal mystery of the deep is not that we have not seen it all, but that we never will. It is a world designed not for us, but for itself, vast beyond measure, secret beyond comprehension. The light above grows stronger. Soon, the journey will end. But the abyss remains, waiting, silent, eternal. The vessel ascends further, the faint glow of the surface world beginning to press down through the water like a promise. Yet even as the light grows, your thoughts remain tethered to the trench far below. What you left behind was not merely a place, but an encounter with the unknowable, a reminder that the ocean does not end where your eyes fail, but stretches into realms beyond imagination. The pressure outside decreases with every meter upward. The creaks and groans that once threatened the vessel have softened into silence. For the first time in hours, you feel as though the ocean is releasing its grip. But the memory of that crushing darkness, of sediments stirred by unseen movements, of eyes glimmering in the abyss, it lingers, haunting. Then, suddenly, movement. A school of lanternfish surrounds the vessel, tiny bodies flashing with rhythm like synchronized dancers in the half-light. They swirl and vanish as one. It is a reminder that even here, in waters that are still hostile to humans, life is abundant, thriving, endless. And each creature, no matter how small, is a keeper of secrets, secrets of migration, survival, and light itself. You recall how scientists estimate that lanternfish alone may make up nearly half the ocean's biomass. Yet how often are they seen? How rarely are they studied? The trench taught you this. What dominates the earth need not be visible. Power, scale, and wonder often hide beneath the surface, far from human sight. The vessel continues upward, and soon the twilight zone begins to fade. The darkness thins, replaced by a dull gray glow. Your instruments buzz faintly. Data is being recorded, but the numbers mean little compared to what you've seen. Graphs and charts cannot capture the alien stillness of a brine pool, the skeletal cathedral of a whale fall, or the emerald eyes of a barrelli fish staring up through its glass skull. These are not data points. They are experiences. They are encounters with life as it exists outside of us. As you near the upper layers, a shape cuts across your path. Enormous, sleek, purposeful, a sperm whale. Its scarred body glides past the vessel, its eye catching your light for a fleeting second. And in that gaze, there is something both humbling and uncanny. This is not a creature of ignorance. This is an explorer in its own right, a diver of impossible depths, a witness to things you will never see. For centuries, these whales have plunged into the abyss in search of giant squid, entering realms where even our machines struggle. They have carried the memory of those depths in their DNA, and scars carved by battles fought in darkness. The whale lingers for a moment, its massive body silhouetted against the dim light. Then, with a slow flick of its tail, it vanishes into the deep once more. It reminds you that the ocean does not reveal itself to us alone. Other eyes, other minds, have traveled its pathways long before we arrived. The surface draws closer. Sunlight pierces downward in shimmering beams, scattering across the water like a celestial curtain. Yet instead of relief, you feel a strange sense of loss. The further you rise, the more distant the trench becomes, a world now hidden behind miles of water and pressure. A world that, despite your descent, remains untouched, unexplained, unclaimed. You think of the future, of technologies yet to be built, of explorers yet to be born. Will they return? Will they reach deeper, stay longer, uncover more? Or will the trench remain forever beyond us, a reminder that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only respected? The vessel breaks into the upper ocean. Light floods the cabin, almost blinding after so many hours in the dark. The sound of waves above becomes audible, muffled but insistent. The surface is near. Home is near. And yet, a truth presses against your thoughts. The ocean will never truly be home to us. We are visitors, brief and fragile. The abyss belongs to itself, to the life that is adapted to its crushing silence, to the timeless balance of predator and prey, of death and renewal. Our machines may enter, our lights may pierce, our instruments may measure, but the deep will never be ours. The vessel breaches the surface at last. Sunlight explodes across the windows. The sky stretches overhead, vast and blue. The waves rock you gently, as though nothing at all lies beneath. Ships cross the horizon. Birds dive and call. The ordinary world returns. And yet, you know the truth. Beneath this calm surface lies a kingdom of shadows, an empire of pressure and darkness, a world that does not need us, but that we desperately need. For it is there, in the silence of the trenches, that the ocean writes its oldest stories. Stories of resilience, stories of survival, stories that remind us how small we are and how much more there is to see. You close your eyes, the vessel swaying in sunlight, but in your mind, you are still descending, still drifting through brine pools and whale skeletons, still staring into the green eyes of a barrel-eye fish, still listening to the silence of a world that has never needed us and never will. The ocean holds its secrets still, and always will. The trench lies behind you now, a shadow cathedral carved in silence. But the story does not end with descent and return. For as long as the ocean has hidden its depths, humanity has imagined ways to pierce them. And now, that imagination is becoming reality. The future of ocean exploration is not a dream whispered on shorelines. It is being built in workshops, labs, and hangars across the world. Imagine a fleet of autonomous submersibles, sleek as sharks, gliding through the blackness without the need for human lungs or fragile steel hulls. They breathe not oxygen but algorithms, their senses tuned to currents, pressure, and vibrations. These machines can slip into trenches for months, even years, mapping every rise, every fracture, every flicker of life. They are the scouts of a new era, emissaries that can go where no human body will ever survive. Above them, satellites orbit silently, peering down with sonar beams that bounce off the seafloor. Their maps redraw the contours of the Earth, revealing mountains taller than Everest and canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, all hidden beneath the waves. Yet what they show is only shape, not soul. For to understand life in the abyss, we must still send our machines into the dark. And those machines are evolving. Today, experimental robots carry bioluminescent sensors that mimic the light language of deep-sea creatures, allowing them to approach without startling. Others are built of materials that flex with the pressure instead of resisting it. Not cages of steel, but bodies that bend like whales. They're no longer clumsy visitors. They are learning to move like natives. But with each innovation comes a question heavier than any pressure. What do we seek? Are we building these vessels to learn or to take? The ocean floor hides treasures that stir human greed. Nodules rich in cobalt, nickel, and rare earth metals formed over millions of years by chemical whispers in the dark. Mining companies already speak of harvest, of drilling rigs crawling across the abyss like mechanical crabs, scooping the seafloor into profit. And yet, the abyss is not a mine. It is a living system. Every nodule may shelter microbial life older than civilization. Every slope may cradle creatures whose existence rewrites our understanding of biology. To strip it for metals would be to erase pages of a book we have only just begun to read. The future of exploration will decide, are we guardians or exploiters? Scientists argue for patience. They dream of permanent observatories, habitats anchored in trenches, recording for decades, transmitting streams of data from the world below. Not snapshots, but symphonies of information, migration cycles, ecological webs, chemical exchanges. Such observatories could teach us how life adapts to extremes, offering clues to survival beyond Earth itself. For if life thrives here, under pressures that crush steel, then it may thrive beneath the frozen oceans of Europa or in the methane seas of Titan. The ocean is not just a mirror of Earth. It is a mirror of possibility. But to build such observatories requires restraint. It demands that exploration remain an act of reverence, not conquest. For the ocean is fragile, even when it feels eternal. Its balances are delicate, its voice is quiet. Too much light, too much noise, too much intrusion, and its hidden creatures may vanish before we even learn their names. The future stretches before us like the trench itself, vast, uncertain, filled with both wonder and peril. Humanity now stands at the edge of a decision deeper than any abyss. To explore, yes. To discover, yes. But how, and at what cost? The answers are not yet written. They will be carved by the hands of explorers, engineers, scientists, and dreamers. They will be shaped by the choices we make, and by the voices we choose to silence or to hear. For the ocean has endured for billions of years without us. Whether it endures with us, that remains the question. The ocean's future is being written in workshops and research stations, but it is also being written in boardrooms. Decisions made under fluorescent lights, far from the sound of waves, may determine whether the abyss is preserved or plundered. In these rooms, the language of discovery often collides with the language of profit. Words like innovation and progress sit beside words like harvest and extraction. Mining companies look at the seafloor and see an untapped fortune. Manganese nodules, black fist-sized stones scattered across abyssal plains, contain the cobalt, nickel, and rare earths that fuel our modern world. Smartphones, electric cars, satellites. In them, industry sees not patience, but urgency, not wonder, but wealth. Proponents argue that to transition away from fossil fuels, to build batteries for a cleaner future, we must mine the ocean floor. They call it a necessary sacrifice. But scientists push back, reminding us that the trench is not a vault, but a vein, fragile, interconnected, alive. Every nodule is an ecosystem in miniature, home to bacteria, corals, sponges, and creatures yet unnamed. To scoop them up by the millions would be to strip away the foundation of life in the abyss, leaving scars that may never heal. Even our most advanced machines cannot yet predict the full cost of such actions. The clash is not just scientific, but moral. For who owns the deep? Nations claim waters near their shores, but the trenches, those vast international abysses, belong to no one and to everyone. They are the common heritage of humankind. To mine them recklessly would be to take from all for the benefit of few. Yet even as this debate rages, new technologies whisper of another path. Engineers envision biomimicry-based machines inspired by the creatures of the abyss themselves. Robots shaped like jellyfish, drifting silently, harvesting nothing but information. Submersibles that glow with gentle pulses, blending into the darkness instead of shattering it. These designs are not built to take, but to listen, to observe, to learn. They are an act of humility, a recognition that the deep will not yield to brute force, but may reveal itself to gentleness. Meanwhile, international coalitions are forming, fragile but hopeful. Treaties are drafted, codes of conduct debated. Some speak of protected trenches, sanctuaries where no mining or drilling can ever take place, the marine equivalent of national parks. To protect not only the creatures we know, but those we have not yet glimpsed. To declare that some mysteries are not meant to be consumed. And beyond the trenches, beyond even the ocean, lies the greatest frontier: space. What we learn here about life in extremes, about resilience under pressure, about ecosystems without sunlight, may be the very knowledge that allows us to find life elsewhere. Every discovery in the trench is a message from the cosmos, whispered through the ocean floor. It tells us that life is more adaptable, more inventive, more persistent than we ever dared to dream. But the warning is clear as well. The ocean is a mirror. What we choose here, reverence or ruin, patience or plunder, will shape not only the deep, but the way we approach every frontier that follows. If we cannot respect the ocean, how will we respect the silence of other worlds? The future of exploration is not only about what we build, but who we become. To descend into the abyss is to confront not just darkness, but ourselves. Our hunger, our curiosity, our fear, our greed. The ocean is vast, but the reflection it offers is intimate. It shows us what we value, what we are willing to risk, and what we cannot afford to lose. The horizon of exploration is opening wider than ever before. Yet standing at this threshold, we must ask, will the next chapter of the ocean's story be one of wonder preserved or wonder destroyed? The trench whispers of patience, but the future seems to race forward. Every year, new vessels are launched, new robotics tested, new frontiers imagined. Humanity's desire to descend deeper has become a contest between nations, universities, and private companies, each vying not only for discovery, but for prestige. Consider the latest generation of autonomous deep-diving drones. No longer tethered to ships, they roam freely, navigating by artificial intelligence. They map the seafloor in detail finer than ever before, rendering landscapes of ridges and plains invisible to the human eye. They carry chemical sensors that sniff for signs of life, microphones that record the groan of tectonic plates, cameras that see in darkness with the glow of a single photon. With these machines, the abyss is becoming less of a blank canvas and more of a story, but a story still half unread. And yet, the closer we come to seeing clearly, the more fragile the vision feels. For as technology deepens our gaze, so too does it risk disturbing what it observes. Cameras and lights intrude, engines hum, sediment clouds rise. The abyss notices our presence, even when we try to be invisible. The ocean teaches us that to look is to touch, and to touch is to change. Every observation is also an impact. Some scientists now argue that the future lies in listening rather than looking. Networks of hydrophones, anchored in silence across trenches, recording not images but sounds. The clicking of squid, the hum of currents, the whispers of shifting earth. The ocean is full of voices we have not yet learned to hear. To listen may be the most respectful way of knowing. Others dream of living laboratories, submersible stations, built not to extract, but to exist within the deep. These habitats would drift among abyssal plains, studying without taking, powered by the same chemical reactions that sustain life around hydrothermal vents. Such stations would not be intruders, but neighbors, adapting to the rhythms of the deep instead of forcing it to adapt to ours. But not all visions are so careful. Some corporations dream of machines that crawl across the seafloor like armored beetles, tearing at nodules, scooping sediment into vast collectors. To them, the abyss is a vault of resources waiting to be opened. They speak of progress, of green energy, of the metals needed to build solar panels and wind turbines. But their plans are shadowed by silence. Silence about ecosystems destroyed, about species erased before even discovered. The clash between preservation and profit is sharpening. Conferences are held, laws drafted, but enforcement is uncertain. The abyss is too vast, too remote, too lawless for easy governance. A mining machine might devastate an area larger than cities before a satellite or patrol ship even notices. Once scars are carved into the seafloor, they may last for millennia. In the deep, there is no quick recovery. And so the question grows heavier: how do we explore without destroying? Humanity has already left scars on forests, rivers, skies. The ocean remains, for now, a frontier mostly untouched. But untouched does not mean safe. As we extend our reach, we also extend our shadow. It is here that hope and caution intertwine. Hope in the ingenuity of scientists who design with reverence, who dream of observing without harm. Caution in the reminders of history, that every frontier we have touched, we have altered. The deep does not forgive easily. The future hangs suspended, like a diver at the edge of descent. We can choose the path of guardianship or the path of extraction. The tools we build today will write that choice into the fabric of the abyss. And one day, when future generations look back at the decisions we make now, they will see not only what we built, but who we were. The surface world often forgets the deep. On land, cities blaze with light, economies shift with speed, and technology grows louder with each passing year. But in the abyss, the rhythm remains slow, patient, ancient. Creatures live not in years, but in centuries. Ecosystems thrive not in urgency, but in balance. The future of exploration will hinge on whether humanity can learn to respect that rhythm, or whether we will impose our own. Already, whispers of conflict stir. Some nations build fleets of deep-diving vessels, not only for research, but for power. Whoever controls the resources of the deep may one day control the future of technology itself. Others call for restraint, urging that the abyss must never be a battlefield, never be a quarry. Yet history warns us, where resources lie, competition often follows. The trench may become not just a place of science, but of struggle. And yet there's another vision, one born not of conquest, but of kinship. Imagine an age where humanity treats the ocean as a partner, not a possession. Where engineers craft machines that do not consume, but collaborate. Where laws protect the abyss as fiercely as they protect heritage sites and sacred lands. Where exploration is guided not by hunger, but by awe. This is not fantasy. It is a choice fragile and real. The tools already exist. Artificial intelligence can pilot vessels with precision, reducing intrusions. Renewable energy can power observatories without pollution. International agreements can preserve sanctuaries of silence. It is not the absence of ability that decides the future. It is the presence of will. But will alone is not enough. It must be coupled with humility, for the ocean does not need us. It has endured longer than our species has walked the earth, and it will endure long after we are gone. The question is not whether the abyss survives, but whether we survive alongside it, whether we allow it to teach us, to reshape us, to remind us of the scale of our own fragility. Explorers of tomorrow may one day look back at this moment as a turning point. They may say that in these years, humanity chose to see the ocean not as an endless vault, but as a living cathedral of resilience. Or they may say that we failed, that we let hunger for metals and power eclipse reverence, and that in the process we silenced voices older than mountains. The choice is ours, though we do not hold it forever. Already the engines of industry stir. Already the first blueprints for abyssal mining rigs are drawn. Every delay in decision is a decision itself, a silent permission for intrusion. And so, perhaps the true challenge of exploration is not technological at all. It is ethical. It is spiritual. It is the challenge of seeing ourselves not as masters of the ocean, but as one species among countless others, all sharing a fragile blue planet suspended in darkness. As the future unfolds, one truth will remain. The abyss will keep its secrets. No matter how deep we dive, there will always be realms beyond our reach, creatures beyond our sight, mysteries beyond our comprehension. This is not failure. It is the very essence of wonder. To know that the ocean is infinite, and that we will never exhaust its stories, is a gift. And when our machines descend, carrying sensors and lights into that eternal dark, may they do so with reverence. May they whisper, not roar. May they seek knowledge, not conquest. May they honor the silence that has endured for eons. For the ocean does not exist to be conquered. It exists to remind us of scale, of patience, of humility. To look into its depths is to see our place in the cosmos reflected back at us. Small, fleeting, fragile, yet capable of wonder. The future of exploration is not just about what lies beneath. It is about what lies within us. And as long as we choose awe over greed, curiosity over hunger, reverence over conquest, the abyss will remain not a wound but a wonder.